Hi there, it's the Common Magician with something interesting to show you today. I've got a deck of cards here, and we'll just give it a quick shuffle. Just to make sure that everything is mixed up. And I've got a pair of dice here, and I would have you give them a good roll just to demonstrate that they are legit. And you can see that we rolled here, what, 6, 7. 6 and a 1 is a 7. And I would have you take the cards that were shuffled and just count off 7 cards. You would count off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And of course, you would find in this circumstance that the joke is on you. So today we're going to talk about rule number 1. That's not the main focus of the topic, but it's relevant to this because I've been debating whether or not I want to do this or not. I've been posting a number of videos lately that are intended to fool you, okay? Fool magicians. That's what they're designed for. And I was inspired by some of Jason Ladany's stuff that he'd been putting out on Instagram and his TikTok and whatnot, his social media accounts. These effects using what appears to be card control, and they are kind of sequences that are designed specifically to fool magicians. That's evidently what they are designed to do, because being on video, of course, and watching that and knowing how to accomplish various types of cheating sorts of methods with cards, a magician ought to know upon multiple viewing or close viewing what's going on. But with these examples that he's been putting out, you can't really tell what's happening. Things seem to be extremely fair, yet they seem to be based on chance, particularly using dice. And it's been a lot of fun to watch these videos that he's making and to try to sort out what potentially could be going on. First, I have to say I have no idea what he is doing in some of these. I have some ideas. What I'm going to show you is my solution to some of what I've been seeing. But this is just my solution, and I don't actually think he's doing what I'm doing. I think he's got some other things going on there. But this is just kind of where my mind went first when I saw some of these examples. And this is going to break rule number 1 for you. So let me explain what rule number 1 is. So in magic, we have these various rules that are applied to a sort of magician's code. Some people feel differently about that. Some people really hold this up as being extremely important, and others kind of feel that it's overrated. But in general, I think it was Thurston who came up with these kinds of rules, these guidelines that magicians should follow. And rule number 1 is that a magician never reveals the secret. And this is problematic, of course, for a teaching channel like this, where that's exactly what we do. We talk about secrets all the time. We talk about methods and how things work with the interest of helping the common magician, like myself and perhaps like you, to be more effective and to perform more frequently for family and friends and people that you know. And that is the goal. That's the purpose. So it's very much like the typical magic book that you could get at the public library that many of us did, school libraries and public libraries. And that's where a lot of magicians first started to learn the craft, is by, that free access to books where you could learn basic principles and then build on it from there. So that's the nature of this channel, and it would seem that we're breaking rule number 1, but that's not really what rule number 1 is about. Rule number 1 is really about performing for spectators, and then in that moment, as part of your normal sequence of events, to say, oh, let me show you how I did it. That's rule number one. That's breaking rule number one. Rule number one is not necessarily sharing information or secrets or teaching methods. Rule number one is about violating your audience, right? The audience looks at an effect and they're supposed to be puzzled by it. And they're supposed to have a mystery surrounding that they take away with them. And as part of a normal routine to do something for an audience, for spectators, and then violate that as part of a normal routine, that's violating rule number one. You can sort of think about classic Penn and Teller in this way, right? This is something that they did much more frequently back in the day. And even now they have parts, I know, in their show, their regular act, where they do this on purpose. But I think there's kind of a different sort of art form presentation related to that, okay? I don't think they're going out there just to violate their audience by doing something and then explaining it to them. I think it's kind of a separate level of entertainment that they're offering. And you'll notice that even when they do this, they seem to retain some amount of mystery. They seem to explain things, but there's always something in there that isn't quite clear, right? There's an example they do, I know, in their show where they have a floating ball routine. And Teller does this stuff with the floating ball, and the ball floats around the stage and through hoops and, over or underneath handkerchiefs and whatever. And then at the very end of the routine, it's a beautiful routine. At the end, I think Penn walks out on stage and he picks up the ball by the string that's apparently holding it. And he takes some big scissors and he cuts the string and the ball drops to the floor. And that's how it ends, right? So there's kind of an expose on the method that's part of the entertainment value of this very beautiful, creative sort of thing. And it seems to break rule number one, except for the fact that it doesn't really explain everything, okay, if you know what I mean. So breaking rule number one is literally doing a card trick for friends and having them say, "Oh, show me how it's done." And you go, "Okay, golly gee whiz, I'll show you how I did it." That's breaking rule number one. Okay, that's really what that's about. It's not about selling magic effects. It's not about writing magic books. It's not about whether or not you're charging people to learn the secret. It's not about whether or not you're doing it for free on YouTube. It's about the moment where you choose your spectator, you do something for them, and then you violate the mystery by explaining it away, especially when it's not solicited, right? Truly, anybody that wants to know the secret to a magical effect, they're entitled to know if anyone's willing to tell them. That's up to them. It's their loss in terms of the mystery or their gain in terms of the method, right? Because there's that perspective too. Anybody that wants to learn magic can go buy books and do it, or they can make it up themselves. They can come up with deceptive ways. So I'm breaking rule number one because I did these videos for you that were intended to fool you, but I'm going to talk about a method that is relative. Now, it doesn't answer everything, and it doesn't give an explanation for every single example that I've done, but it is going to violate it. So that's the theoretical discussion I wanted to have with you. But in the interest of education and learning about a method that is something that you could use, it's actually a pretty well-known method. It just is maybe not quite as frequently used. I want to teach it today. So what I have here is a regular deck of cards and a joker, and the joker acts as the reveal. This is not a very good trick. It's just used as a demonstration. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this card eighth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then it's going to go in 8. And then obviously what I'm doing is I'm shuffling, but I'm controlling that top stock just to keep it in place. And then the real mystery comes in here. I've got some dice. And before I talk about what's going on here, just want to show you something that this is something that I recently got into. I've had some dice. I had some kind of regular game board dice, the white dice with the black spots, and I did a couple videos with those while I was waiting for this to come in the mail. I ordered these, and the dice were, they came from a company called Bryce's Dice. Bryce's Dice. Bryce Lickfield is the name of the owner, and that's the information right here. So I don't know them, but this is a freebie advertisement. Has a website. You can go there, say brycesdice.com, BRYCESDICE.com. What I was looking for was casino style dice, sharp razor edges at the right dimension. If you look up dice, you'll see there's kind of some standard dimensions, and there's a specific kind of medium-sized dimension for casino type dice. I wanted the translucent sort of acrylic plastic, and I wanted them blank. That's what I wanted. I was looking for blank cubes, and I found these on Bryce's Dice, and they were pretty affordable. The order was just for 10, but he sent 12. Blank orange, that's what he had for blanks. Had come across these blanks that were not going to be used, and they were sold as blanks. So 12 in a pack, just came in some cellophane. And then what I did is I spotted them. So I took just some sticky back paper labels, and then I used a paper punch, a hole punch, a small one that had kind of a small spot on it, about that size. Then I punched out all the holes that I wanted, and then I affixed these to the dice where I wanted them to be. I wanted to use a bigger spot, but I found that kind of the classic hole punch spot was too big for the dice. Normally in casino dice, the spots are bigger. They touch each other. Whenever you have, for example, on the 6, all the spots would be touching each other, and they'd be coming almost up to the edge. Now, the normal way that casino dice are spotted is that I believe they are drilled and then they're filled. So there's an inlay that goes in there, very shallow inlay that goes all the way around. When people think about dice, trick dice, they think about what they call loaded dice. And usually what that refers to is dice that have had weight added to one side and weight taken away from the opposite side, such that they tend to roll. They have a tendency to roll with the weight down. Now, it's not a guarantee. There's a percentage in the roll. There's a way that they have to be handled to give a better guarantee of it, but they tend to roll face down. People talk about weighted dice. Normally, if you're going to use loaded dice, weighted dice, they're going to be opaque. And not usually translucent or transparent like this. This is kind of a frosted translucent, which is what I wanted, and it just happened to have these orange ones, so that you can't really make out what's on the other side very easily. You can see that they look fair, and you can see spots from the other side refracting through, but it's not absolutely obvious what's on the other side. Loaded dice, weighted dice, are not the most common kind of dice to cheat with. Actually, the most common type is this type. So here's 6 normal dice, and these are 6 toppers. These are known as toppers, and the way these work is that there's really only 3 values on any one of these, any one die. So this particular type has 1, 2, and 3, and that's it. On the opposite side, there's another 3. On the opposite side of 2, there's another 2, and on the opposite side of 1, there's another 1. So I've got a few of these that I spotted just for that. So I've got 4 of those, and then I made 2 that have 4, and then 4 on the other side, 5 on the other side, and then 6, and 6 on the other side. This is pretty open knowledge as far as dice cheating. I just saw a video that Sal Piacente did recently where it might have been for Vanity Fair or something, where he talks about movies that deal with casino cheating. And he talks about all of the real methods for cheating, kind of the better known methods. And when he gets to dice, he talks about toppers. So this is pretty public knowledge that you can get coming from a very well-known magician and cheating expert there. So common knowledge stuff that's already out there that you can find, just this simple sort of concept. Now, how can this help, right? Because this is not a guarantee. I can't guarantee that I roll any particular thing, right? When I roll, it's 1 in 3 that I hit any particular number on any one of these dice. Well, here's how it works. If I take a topper that's for 1, 2, and 3, and use a topper that's for 4, 5, and 6, and I use these two together, what I end up with is a percentage of occurrence, right? There's some averages as far as what can happen. So in general, I have 9 possibilities, okay? There's 9 possibilities that I can roll with these, and there's only 9, and it's already very limited. I can roll, this is just a quick explanation, I can only roll 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. So these two dice together will only roll 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. It won't roll any other value except for those. There is only one combination that will get me 5. So you can see there's one mark there, only one combination. There are 2 combinations that can get me 6. Okay, so I can roll 2 different combinations to get 6. There are 3 combinations to roll a 7. So 3 different combinations will get me the total of 7. 2 combinations to roll 8, 1 combination to roll 9. You can see this curve, right? It's a bell curve percentages here for the values. So just to go over them very quickly, to roll a 5, I have to get a 4 or a 1. And it doesn't matter, you know, what else is rolled. This is the only way to get a 5. It has to be a 4 and a 1. I can get a 6 if it's a 4 and a 2, or if I roll a 5 and a 1. So those are the 2 options for that. On the other side, a 9, I can roll a 9 if I get a 6 and a 3. There's no other way to get 9. I have to roll that. Or I could roll an 8 if I roll a 5 and a 3. Or if I roll a 6 and a 2. Those are the only options for 8. But for 7, I can roll a 4 and a 3. I can roll a 5 and a 2. Or I can roll a 6 and a 1. So those are the 3 options for 7. And what this comes down to is that 3 out of 9 rolls, I can get a 7. That's 1 in 3 chances that I roll a 7. They're not great odds, but they're good enough. They're good enough to depend on if you have the right kind of presentational method, okay? Likewise, if I couple that together with the possibility of an 8, which is 2 options out of 9, that gets me 5 out of 9, which is better than 50%. So every time that these are rolled, I have better than 50% that I will get either a 7 or an 8. Either 7 or an 8. So as I roll it right here, you can see I hit my 8, right? 6, 7, 8. If I roll it again, I hit 7. If I roll them again, I hit 8. If I roll it again, I hit 7. These are going to be very common, particularly the 7. I could roll a 6 as often as I roll an 8. I could roll a 5 as often as I roll a 9, right? But just between 7 and 8, it's 5 out of 9, better than 50% that I get one of those. So what I need is I need a presentation that will allow me to hit that. So this is how it works. I've got my cards sitting at the 8th position, and I have an out for 7 or 8. I can either deal off 7 cards and find the joker, or I can deal to it at 8, right? That's my possibility. So I just do some top stock retention shuffles. Could do some false cuts, false strips, whatever I need to do to maintain this stock. And then here's how this presentation works. I say I've got a pair of dice here. Go ahead and roll them to see that they're normal. And when they roll, if they hit a 7 or an 8, I leave it. That's it, right? You can see here that they hit a 5, and I can say you can see that every time you roll, you get something different. Go ahead and roll it again to show that. And then they roll again, and now I'm increasing my odds, right? And then here you can see I've hit 4, 5, 6. I'm still not there. And then I just impress on the fact that, of course, every time you roll it, you see you got a different number each time. Go ahead and roll that one more time. now my odds are already increased, okay? Even though this isn't like Russian roulette where the game has a memory, remember, it's going to be 1 in 3 that I hit 7, or 2, it's 2 out of 9, right? Or better than 50% for either one of those. So I'm still doing better than 50% when they roll, and I've already rolled twice. Okay, so they roll it, and you can see that we go over it again, 9. And then what I can do, if they don't hit then, is I just change the direction. I say, now let me roll one here, and then I roll it, right? And then now I hit my 7. So you just have to have an excuse to get a few rolls in where you're going to hit that. Now, is there the potential for that apocalyptic kind of situation where it just never comes up? It's possible, I suppose, but the odds are pretty good that you're going to get either the 7 or the 8 after a few rolls. You just have to justify the rolling of the dice. So first one, say I've got some regular dice here. Just go, or I have a pair of dice. Don't say regular. I have a pair of dice. Go ahead and roll them. And they roll them, and if you have a hit, then that's it. And then you go on. You see I've got my 7 right there. If it's not a hit, you say roll them again to show that they can change, that it's not the same thing every time. And then if that's a hit, then you go with that. And if it's not a hit, then you say, why don't you go ahead and roll them one time just to be sure, right? You do it again. And if it's not a hit, and say, great, thank you for demonstrating that. I'm going to roll here. And you can see that I come up with 8, right? And then you can do your reveal. So it's just taking some chance and having multiple outs, a little bit of equivocate when using dice to do that. So how does this apply to some of the things that I've done? You're not going to like this explanation, okay? But it is a valid way to do it. If I was going to do any card to any number, I could do the trick, up to 50 plus times, 52 times. It's 1 in 52 chance that occurrence happens. That's how the trick works, or how the effect can work with respect to chance. I could do any card at any number like that. I could record it over and over and over again until I get a hit. That's absurd, and it wouldn't be well taken, but it is a possibility. That's what I did. That's what I did with these. Okay, I just did it until I had a hit. But I was more clever about it. There was no way I was going to sit for a few hours and try to do something that had odds that were in the hundreds or thousands, okay? What I did is I used two sets of these dice. Toppers that are 1 through 3, and a set of toppers that are, set of toppers that are 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I have 4, 5, 6, and 1, 2, and 3. This combination, when you do the math, it ends up being 44 different combinations. And it seems hard to believe with 4 dice, but it is only 44. There are only 44 potential combinations with 4 sets of dice. And it seems like hitting 1 chance in 44 is really out there, but it's actually not as high as you think, okay? Because there's a likelihood that you're going to hit it sooner rather than later, at least in the first half. What I did is I came up with a procedure where I had the stack that I needed, in the few times that I did this kind of trick. And I false shuffled it to retain the stock where I needed it to be. And I'm not going to get into how I did that. There's a little bit of trickery involved in that. Certainly some things that I've already taught on this channel, but I'm going to leave it open for you to try to decipher. And then I had a repeatable procedure, something that I could repeat over and over and over again. And as soon as I was done with it, it would reset. So if I didn't get a hit, it was automatically reset, and I could just record it again immediately. So my tactic went like this. I had my dice sitting out there. I would do 3 rolls to demonstrate on camera that the dice roll separate numbers. Then I would do my shuffle, and then my cut or whatever. Then I have the cards sit there, and then I would roll, and this is the money one. If I had a hit, I would finish it out, and then I would edit, and that was my take, okay? If I didn't roll what I wanted, I would just start over. I would roll it 3 times, right, for the camera. I would do my shuffles, and then I would roll again, and then if I had a hit, I would deal it out. So this procedure only took 6 minutes of my life. because the odds are good. 1 in 44. It's not that bad, especially since you're doing a bunch of rolls, right? You're just kind of, again, it doesn't really have memory, but just with respect to the amount of times that you're doing it, your probability is looking pretty good, okay, that you're going to hit it because you're rolling so many times. You have a lot of opportunities to hit it. There's a few times early on when I would roll it and I would see the numbers show up in my initial rolls, and what I would do is I would just stop there and start over immediately, because I wanted to make sure that my first rolls that I did for the camera were not what the end was going to be. I wanted them all to be different, so that saved me a lot of time as well. Okay, but every time I did it, it was 1 chance in 44, and then I got a hit after about 6 minutes, and that's the one that I did. So I thought it was a good way to do it, you know, to fool some magicians on a YouTube video, something that is, you know, on video and doesn't have to be verified. I have no clue how Ladany is doing what he's doing there, but that's what I thought about when I saw that. The first thing I thought about was toppers, was using dice that have some percentage possibilities for hitting a predetermined number, and that's what I came up with. So make some toppers. You can also look for counting cubes is something that these will come under. So blank dice can sometimes be called counting cubes. You can find them like on Amazon in regular standard dice size or even this bigger size. They might not be razor cut, but you can get opaque cubes like that, and you can paint or use a marker or something, or you can do the hole punch kind of idea. Obviously, if someone was familiar with casino dice and they looked at this, they would know that it wouldn't be authentic. I don't care, because nobody knows casino dice, you know, what they look like, and I'm certainly not running in circles where that would matter. I'm doing things on video and with family and friends or whatever. So this is my perfectly adequate solution, and I've got a nice set of 6 dice that I can use for legit stuff, and there's some things I've done on there using dice that are legit, such as cutting out random number that I roll, cutting that out of the deck. So that's all legit stuff using my ace cutting procedure that I sell on Penguin if you're interested in it. So anyway, toppers, multiple ounce, equivoque with your words, and using multiple opportunities to get a hit. This is not that obscure. I seem to recall someone recently within the last couple of seasons, I think on Fool Us, that actually had a trick that operated on this very principle on there, using sort of a prearrangement of dice, setup dice, and just based on probability of rolls, and then using language and words to set up an equivoque situation where they could choose the roll that hit for the effect. Just a clever way to use percentage cheating dice like that. It's really how it's used in gambling, right? The gambler would ring in the fake dice or the rigged dice, and they would roll on the percentage, which give them a higher probability of hitting specific numbers than what normally would be there. And when they feel that they've won enough, or that it's starting to get a little kind of shady, they just swap in the regular dice. They either win by chance or they lose the last one, a little bit of money, and then they walk away. It's a percentage game using toppers. And it is apparently, according to the cheating experts, it is actually the #1 way to cheat with dice, is using toppers, not weighted or loaded dice, but actually using this method. Where the dice are misspotted. So anyway, good luck with that, and happy magicking.